everybody! Today we're going to be doing some new moon journaling in my A5 bottle green Scribbles That Matter. This is the one I've been using for my Moon Journaling Society spreads as well. So we're coming up on the new moon in Aries, which is April 11th, 2021. Tomorrow, if you're watching this video the day it comes out. And I did kind of pre-plan some of it just because I wanted to make sure I had it all in there. These are probably some of my favorite illustration pens. The Artist Loft, I think they actually call them just illustration pens. But I like the fact that they come in 3 different nib sizes because I'm kind of particular about my fine points. I'm not really that great at hand lettering, so I kind of just went with a slightly more flourishy version of my own handwriting. And one of the things I want to be working on this year is do more hand lettering and kind of practice that, because I used to be able to do calligraphy and I just kind of let the skill die, so time to brush out those pens and start again, I think. So like I said, these pens do come in 3 different nib sizes. I used the 0.3 in my lettering at the top, and then this one is the 0.5 millimeter, and just really like how it can build up really nicely without it being super inky, I think is a good way to put it. Sometimes you get the illustration pens and they're very wet. I don't have that problem with my microns, obviously, and I don't have a problem with these. I think they're really nice pens and they're really affordable. So for the finer tip lines, or the finer lines, I did switch down to the 3. And then I switched back up to the 5 when I was doing the dots so that they would stand out a little bit more. And then I used one of my Arteza fine liners. These are a 0.4. And they come in a ton of beautiful colors. This just happens to be one of the red ones. And it is hard to see because the lines are so faint, but it's just making 3 little red dots along the outer rim of the top row of black dots, and then again on the inner rim of the lower round of black dots, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Then I kind of liked the way that it showed up when I did the alternating, every other dot gets an extra line, so added some extra details there, so it's easier to see when it's up close. And then this is just my little Pentel click eraser to get rid of the pencil marks underneath everything. I like these ones as opposed to using the little built-in ones on the back ends of the pencils, primarily because I use mechanical pencils and those erasers don't always erase very well. Sometimes they're a little too waxy. But this particular one is fabulous, and I like the fact that I can control it like a pen, so it gives me a little bit more like finite detail when I'm erasing things at finer lines that I'm not quite ready to erase the whole thing yet. It just gives me a little extra control over things. So this is a washi tape that I picked up on Amazon. It came in a set with a bunch of others, and I'll put the link down below but I loved the coloring. It's got this like pale peachy color, and I just thought it looked really great, especially since we're doing Aries, and Aries is a fire sign. But it's got like stars and the sun and looks like little planets and constellations. And it was just kind of a fun. Make sure I'm not going over the lines on the back here. And then just using the edge of my ruler to make sure that that's a nice clean line. Then I'll use the scissors to clean up the edge on the other side. And I noticed that there was a little hangout from my spread on the back side of this page, so I just trimmed that down a little bit too. And just adding a couple little keywords for Aries. This is one of those things that I usually go back to and add more after I think about it longer, but I figured fire and power were probably like a really good starting point. You get to watch me change my mind. So this is one of my zebra mild liners, using the chisel tip. Kind of just wrote in the word horoscopes. I had originally planned to letter this in black the same way I did with the header at the top, but the more I looked at it, the more I realized I wanted to bring some of that peachy color down. And it does look pink here, but it is more peach, orange kind of shading. And just a little bit of added detail to kind of make the letters pop on the page. Give that a minute to set while I pull up the next thing. So these were images that I liked, that I found online, and I had just kind of drawn them on my translucent sticky notes, which are probably my favorite thing right now. I just realized I needed to erase the pencil marks underneath where I wrote horoscopes before I put the sticky note down. But yeah, so translucent sticky notes, I bought these ones at Office Depot, honestly. They're really cool. And I love the fact that they're like, almost like vellum, but they're a little bit easier to manipulate. So I drew it out and then I colored it in, and I have a Gemini sun. So for every new moon I typically go and look up my horoscopes for the coming lunation cycle, just to kind of get an idea. There's my Leo rising, and Leo of course is a fire sign, so I wanted to use some of those reds and oranges, and I just love phoenixes, so make sure I'm not going to overlap anything there. So what I'll do after I finish putting everything together is I will go look at a couple of my favorite different astrologers and then read through what they say for the coming months, and anything that jumps out at me for the coming month, anything that jumps out at me, I will include keywords, bullet points, things like that, just to kind of give me a general idea of what I'm looking for, what I'm looking at in terms of planetary interactions, that's a good word for it. Then I realized on my Libra moon that I hadn't added the additional little dots on it, and I kind of like the way that those just pop out from the image itself. Just decided I needed a little bit more color on here, so grabbed that same fine liner that I used to draw the dots and just colored in the moon. I think it pops a little bit better on the page and just looks cool. So I'm not a particularly great artist, but the translucent sticky notes means that I can actually use images that I found online or trace things out of books, and I can do it right on the sticky note and then put that straight into my notebook. So here I am getting my corner puncher, and then I realized I needed to actually measure out where the corner needed to be rounded at. And this is just a picture of a sliver of a moon that I found on Unsplash and printed out. I love this starry night background on it, and punch the corner so that it's round. Even though it's not going to go straight to the corner of the page, it still makes me feel better to have it rounded. And I kind of want it to take up all of that page space because I'm going to add a header to it. Almost at the end of my glue tape, which is probably one of the most obnoxious things about the crafty process is when you run out of glue halfway through. So then I'm also using one of my Milky jelly roll pens. Gotta get the ink started. For some reason, they'll write on the photos pretty well, but you gotta get the ink flowing properly first, otherwise they just kind of bulk up in the front tip of the thing and they don't actually spread across the page nicely. So I set intentions at every new moon, part of my personal practices. And normally I have like something pretty to go with it, but at the end of the day, as long as I write down the intentions, that's really the part that matters. This is another one of the washi tapes from that same set that the one on the left-hand side came from. This one's more of a midnight blue kind of color. It's also got the same kind of iconography, suns and moons and constellations and all of that. I did a Goddess Wheel of the Year reading with Kimberly over at Mother House of the Goddess, and my goddess for April is the Egyptian goddess Nut, who is the night sky, and I love that, tying her into this spread. Just adding a little bit of extra color to the opposite page, because the more I looked at it, the more I realized those words just seemed a little bland without some help. So this is a set of brush pens that I got off Amazon. I've actually been really quite pleasantly surprised with how good these pens were. They were not terribly expensive. But I really enjoy using them when I color and in my planners and journals and stuff like that. I haven't quite fully decided what I was doing with the background on the header here. Just knew that I wanted more of that dark blue, and I love the way that they layer together because it kind of creates some dimension and a little bit of like cool design effect. I was trying so hard not to get the ink into the center of the pages there because didn't want it to bleed through the seam to anything else. And this is a Scribbles That Matter notebook, so it's 160 GSM paper. It's not going to bleed through to the back side of the page, but I wasn't sure if that would also apply to the center seam line where the signatures are stitched into the binding. So I also like how the straight lines contrasted with the kind of curvy waved lines that I did on the interior border. Just kind of a nice contrast. So now I'm going to take one of my favorite artist pens and just kind of trace the outline of the letters at the top. And then you'll see I'll go through again with that same white Jelly Roll pen and kind of fill it in, but giving it a little bit of definition with the black kind of helps it to stand out just that much more against the dark blue background. At first I thought maybe I would just leave the letters completely white and have the page showing through and then just go around with the blue pen. But the more I played with it, the more I realized that I really like the way that this turned out. It gives a little bit of definition without being like super stark, but also kind of smooth and calming, I think is a good way to describe it. So you can see there's just barely visible against the blue. That's where this white pen comes in handy. So I can go now inside those black lines that I just traced over and fill in with the white. And because it's a semi-opaque pen, it actually lets some of the blue color bleed through the white, which is actually really pretty color, like in person. It looks a little gray on screen, but in person it definitely has a little bit more of that like baby blue, like a, you know, mid-afternoon blue sky kind of feel to it, which I think kind of adds some cool dimension to it. again, hand lettering, not exactly my strongest suit. So this is kind of just like an extra flourishy version of my usual handwriting. So now I'm going in with my black illustration pen and just going back over those words of the poem. If you're not familiar with Nikita Gill, you're missing out. But I love her poetry, I love her storytelling, the way that she uses words to describe feelings is just astounding to me. We did her Greek mythology remake. I'm not sure which to call it. But we did that with our book club at one point, and it was beautiful to see a completely new perspective on the classic Greek gods and goddesses and some of their backstories and things like that. But anybody who knows me knows that I'm like an obsessive Greek mythology fan, so probably not terribly exciting for most people to see the differences, but our group thought it was beautiful, so. This is one of my favorite poems of hers. And I thought it fit an Aries new moon just so perfectly. So the poem is called 93% Stardust. And it says, "We have calcium in our bones, iron in our veins, carbon in our souls, and nitrogen in our brains. 93% stardust with souls made of flames. We are all just stars that have people names." So this is a Wink of Stella pen. I love these stupid things. They're basically like glitter brush pens. You do have to shake them. This one's brand new. You saw me taking off the black ring there. You take the ring off, give it a little bit of a shake, and then you twist down the brush tip and make sure that it's all the way twisted down. I've definitely gotten into some messy glitter accidents. So as you can see, there's like a clear section, and when you squeeze the, there it goes, when you squeeze the base of the pen, see, all over my hand, it pushes the ink down through to the tip of the pen. Brand new ones always take a little bit of finessing to get them going at first. This one is considered clear glitter, so it looks gray when it's bunched up like that, but then as you draw with it, see, there it goes, it spreads out and then it becomes clear-ish. More clear than gray, for sure. I just like sparkle. It's a good little additive. So I'm just kind of going around in between the letters on the background and adding a little bit of glitter, just because you can never have too much glitter. And then I decided you really can't have too much glitter. It's hard to see this way, but I am actually like applying a relatively even amount of the glitter ink to the page itself, just to kind of give it a little bit of sparkle and shimmer, but also because when I add my stickers and my list on this corner, then I can write it straight on top of the glitter, and it just gives it a nice little added pop. Word to the wise, if you have Wink of Stella pens, store them upright. I've made that mistake a couple times. Forgotten one sitting in a cup on the desk. Cup got knocked over, didn't even think about it, and then there was glitter everywhere. So these are a couple of my most favorite Happy Planner sticker books. This one in particular has some absolutely gorgeous stickers in it. And of course the little skinny one didn't want to come up. But I knew that I wanted that one. I thought about putting one of these bigger ones on the side there, but then I realized it might just be too big. So I kind of flipped through the rest of the book to see if there was anything else that just kind of jumped out at me and said, yes, take me. But then that one didn't work. I went and looked for this one. The colors in this one are a little bit more in line with my actual spread here, with that dark navy blue. These are just fabulous books. I bought multiples of them, that's how much I loved them. Oh. So again, I thought maybe one of these big ones would be nice, but then it seemed a little too large. And I saw the little one at the top, and I thought that would be perfect if I could get it off of the sheet. Double check to make sure that the glitter pen was dry. Spoiler alert, not quite completely dry on that last touch, but close enough to make it work, so. I've been really trying to prioritize my self-care and give myself some downtime in between things. So part of what I've been doing is building a list for every new moon of all of the things that I want to do in that kind of 2 to 3 day time period that could just help to kind of enforce me taking a break, and things that make my brain and body and spirit and soul happy. One of the things that's actually at the top of the list there is some deep journal writing time. I've been getting back into the habit of doing my morning pages, and I'd like to improve my habit of evening pages. But so far, mornings are a lot easier for me to control in terms of my own quiet time, which really just makes them ideal for journaling. So just finishing up my self-care list here. Cinnamon tea, hot bath, chocolate, all excellent things. So that's it. You can kind of see some of the glitter. Turn the page so you can see a little bit better. So like I said, I'll go look up my horoscopes and fill in the blanks here. And then tomorrow night I will fill in my moon intentions. And that is that. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching my new moon journaling for the new moon in Aries in April 2021. And we will be back again next month for more moon journaling fun. See ya!